Nathan, you excited for Megalopolis? Classic movie. One of my favorite movies of the year.
It sucked. I think it's one of the worst movies of the year.
Are you fucking serious? You know what? Fuck that. No. Don saw Megalopolis too. This is what he has to say. Oh, let me call him. Hold on. Yo, Don, what's up?
Megalopolis fucking sucks. Neves, you're wrong.
Wrong number. He loved the movie. He gave it 5 stars.
Wrong number.
Yeah, that was a different Don. I'm gonna...
Welcome back to the Real Talk Podcast, episode 158. I'm your host, Nathan, and I'm joined by the Megaloman himself.
Yeah.
Matthew Neves to my left.
Fuck yeah.
And today, we are going to be discussing Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis.
It is a mega masterpiece. I have been waiting to talk about this movie on this fucking podcast.
I got to say, man, it's weeks like these that make me grateful to have a podcast.
Yeah.
And, you know, just falling in love with film all over again. We had a little bit of a boring stretch in the last few months.
Yeah.
But
Not a lot of new movies,
sure,
to be honest.
new stuff. Yeah. Like, I mean, like, as far as what's coming out. And I think that we are so fucking back with Megalopolis and Joker 2.
Oh, yeah,
Maybe you
man.
hate both of them. A lot of people do. But we're talking about shit again.
You know what it is? It's the yin to the Barbenheimer's yang, or
Yeah,
whatever it is, you know?
fuck yeah.
We're kind of at that moment where everyone and their grandmother hates these fucking movies, and we want to talk about them. We want to put our 2 cents into both of these movies.
That's such a good analogy. This is the cursed Barbenheimer.
Like you smoked the wrong pack, and you're just like, oh, what am I gotten myself into? Oh shit.
Oh, this is like the fucking Barbenheimer of the upside down. You
Yeah,
know? It's
literally demented. So we're obviously going to be talking about Megalopolis first, and then
Yeah.
we're going to go into Joker 2 next week.
sure.
But yeah, let's talk about Megalopolis. Let's talk about the history first before getting into the actual review, because I feel like this movie has so much history compared to a lot of other movies.
So from what I understand, it's 40 years in the making.
Yep.
Always like a passion project for Coppola, even though I know he doesn't like the term passion project. He says it in
Yeah,
every
his
interview.
interviews have said like that's kind of redundant. If you're making a film and you're the director, every movie should be passionate.
I definitely get it.
I get that. Yeah.
So years and years he wants to make it, but obviously he's talked about, you know, not being able to fund Apocalypse Now after 2 Godfather hits when he's the hottest director in Hollywood. He still couldn't get that movie made.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to give this old man
A shit ton of money
to make a movie that sounds even more conceptually out there
Yes,
than Apocalypse Now.
exactly. And he hasn't been able to. He tried in 2001. I remember I looked at your reading history points, and he did begin in 2001. He did a reading with people like De Niro and Paul Newman.
Yeah.
So the reason why I believe he stopped was because of 9/11, and a big part of the movie was about disaster in New York.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. I was really interested to know that some of the shots, some of the establishing stuff was used in this
Yep.
film. And I didn't even know that they got that far. I had heard about the reading,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know that they, you know, did some like shots of New York and some
Yeah.
establishing stuff. And I mean, it fit into this film, I think, very seamlessly.
I honestly didn't notice until I read it afterwards.
Yeah,
too.
me too.
Yeah.
But then on the second watch, I had known already, and then I saw it. I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, this is early 2000s New York. I see
But it looks nice.
No, it fit perfectly. It's not a gripe. I think it looked really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it goes more into the fact that Coppola was so dedicated, and I think the only cast members that from 2001 to now that were still in the movie were Giancarlo Esposito and Lawrence Fishburne. That's it.
So Giancarlo Esposito was always supposed to be in it.
He read the script in 2001. His character, he's not described what character he was supposed to play in the 2001 version, but what he said is the script didn't really change all that much.
Interesting.
He's like slight changes due to like the current time and stuff, but aside from that, he's like, nah. It's like from what I remember.
What does this movie look like in 2001, Nev? Better or worse? Is this a better movie in 2001? Do you think it's a...
You know what I would think the 2001 would be? It would be more darker. with the ending,
Uh-huh.
in my opinion. I feel like as Coppola got older, he became more optimistic with not only cinema, but life itself.
I agree with that.
That's what I kind of see, because there's a part of this movie, if it came out in 2001, where it would end. And it's at that dramatic moment with the kid.
Yeah, I could see
I
that.
feel that, and I'm glad that he did more with that, because I feel like that could have been fleshed out more. But again, you probably have seen reviews talking about it. The term polarization is always fun to me, because you get to hear passionate people talk about hating it or talk about loving it. There's no in between with a movie like this, or at least from what I've heard.
Which is what I love. I love when a film has something to say or is trying to say something and we could talk about it after. It's certainly, say what you want about Megalopolis. I've never watched a film like this in my life. I can't really compare it to any films I've ever seen.
No, not really.
It's kind of its own thing, for better or for worse, and it's certainly remarkable. It's easy to talk about, and there's a lot to go into, and also it's memorable as hell.
I fully agree with all those things. And if you didn't notice already, one of us didn't really like it, and one of us loved the movie.
No, I don't think it works. But here's the thing: one of us loved it, one of us didn't really like it. Both of us saw it twice.
Oh yeah.
So what does that have to there's something to be said about a movie that I rated 2 stars and went to go see again in the same week. I've never done that ever.
Yeah.
I probably will never do that again. A movie that I think is like, I leave and I know for sure I did not enjoy it. But I had to go see it again because, with me, like when I watch a movie, usually I'll know how I feel, but my thoughts, I have to sit with it for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
And with this one, I was like, man, like out of the theater, I was fucking spinning. You were saying all this crazy shit.
Yeah,
I was
man.
Like, I don't know, bro. I don't know
about this shit. I think you're going nuts. You're going crazy.
I was like, I really got to sit with this. And,
Yeah.
I sat with it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And I couldn't. I knew I didn't like it, but I couldn't explain why.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I thought about the themes. The themes in my head grew on me. What he was trying to do, I love the idea of it.
Right.
So I'm like, let me see it one more time. And maybe, knowing what I know with a little more context, I can understand it a bit better. And I feel like I did understand it a bit better. I still don't think it works for me, but we'll get into what we think works here. I think the strongest part is the first half.
The first half, yeah. I partially agree with a lot of what you said about this movie. I think I saw it a second time. I saw it in IMAX. And this is the only time this is ever going to come out in IMAX. There's no fucking time, because I read that Joker 2 was going to take all the IMAX screens from Megalopolis. So basically you only had a week to figure out if you're going to see this in IMAX or not. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to see it again. I watched it, I took it in, and I still loved it. But there's a point being said where I need more time to process all of it. We're still in that fanatic
100%.
phase of movies. It's not just superhero films. It's any type of film you're excited about. I love this film. You weren't a huge fan of it, but our opinions could change. Maybe when this comes out on Blu-ray, we're going to be like the exact opposite.
Sure.
Who fucking knows? Anything goes when it comes to cinema nowadays.
Sure, and especially with Coppola, it's like, there's literally examples of that in his filmography.
Yeah.
Of films coming out and being like, what the hell was that? Like, famously, like Apocalypse Now, right?
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to be Apocalypse Now
No.
in the public's eyes. I think it's even more
Weird.
niche and
Yeah.
weird. And appeals to like a smaller audience than
I think so.
Apocalypse Now, still has war and helicopters.
Well, that's a fun thing to say, because here's my quick summary before we get into the review of Megalopolis. To me, Megalopolis, compared to Francis Ford Coppola's other films and his whole career as a whole, this is his most optimistic film,
Sure.
his most sincere film, and his grand finale in terms of what he has accomplished throughout his life. Showing the flaws and insecurities and admitting to it and realizing that the future and humanity is beautiful. That's probably the best I could say of it. It's embarrassingly sincere.
Yeah, that is a message that I subscribe to 100%. And I think that theme, that message comes across really well. And and he finds like I don't think all of it works, but I think
Right.
there's some scenes where that message is coming across in this really profound,
Yeah,
beautiful way, a very like that oozes sincerity, like you're saying.
for sure. Yeah.
And we kind of say he has this innocent old man energy to him.
Yeah.
When you hear him talk, and I think it directly translates to the film at times, which those are the parts that I do like.
And coming from like The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, you read interviews about what Coppola says about those films, and he's just like, yeah, they're great films and stuff, but it's just like, I felt like I was doing a genre.
Yeah.
It's like, what is my style? I feel like I've been so much in the dark that I haven't been able to like look at the light or at least showcase it in my films. And I feel like Megalopolis is like all these ideas that he's come up with that he couldn't really show because of money and putting it right in your face.
Yeah. And that's why I think it gets a little convoluted.
Yeah.
But I respect. The thing is, I respect it. I'm glad this movie exists, man. I really am. Let's go with the casting here and the performances.
Yeah. Like, okay, here's the thing. We can't just talk about the story because a lot of people
No.
are going to be like, well, that's it. And it's like, no, you don't understand. The story is, in my opinion,
Let's go. Let's get a little bit of a context of the
a
story.
little bit of a context. So the movie Megalopolis is about this architect named Caesar Catalina,
Yes.
who is trying to build a better tomorrow for New Rome. New Rome is an artificial. It's basically like futuristic New York and Rome combined. So what you get is a lot of cool designs of clothing and stuff like that. People acting differently and stuff. The language occasionally changes, but also sounds like New York slang.
Yeah.
So that's the world we're in. Caesar is trying to make a better world with it using this material called megalon. Now, megalon is this artificial made up term, and it doesn't really, it's not even a MacGuffin. It's a metaphor for his passion and the people around him in his life that he cares for.
Yeah, it's not fleshed out or explained like at all. Megalon.
It's briefly explained when Frank Cicero, the mayor played by Giancarlo Esposito, whispers in his ear how he uses the megalon. It's his dead wife.
Right. I guess.
Yes. Things are explained, sometimes over-explained, due to the fact that this film is very unconventional with its storytelling.
Sure.
Which I can understand people being like, oh, well, you either go full artsy or you don't. But it does explain it very briefly, but it does. And so the megalon is used, and he is making this. And while this is happening, the mayor's daughter, Julia Cicero,
Yeah.
she is in a relationship with Caesar. She finds him interesting, and she connects with him in a way because he's able to stop time. He has the power to stop time in this.
It's not that important. Not as important as you think if you haven't seen the film.
Literally speaking, from a narrative standpoint, I agree. From a metaphorical, I have.
No, I completely agree with you.
Yes.
And the second watch is when I feel like I really understood the metaphor, and it worked for me really well.
That I really enjoy. There's moments like that where the film is just like, well, why didn't he do this? Or why is this happening? Or why is that? But if you look at it metaphorically speaking, you're like, oh my God, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And the relationship between both families, between Giancarlo Esposito's family, Julia's family, and Caesar's family. Caesar's family is way more dysfunctional. He has an uncle played by John Voight.
Hamilton Crassus III.
Hamilton Crassus III, who is basically like, from what I've heard from various articles, he's kind of like a Donald Trump-esque type of rich billionaire that just marries young women and is just like, oh, I'm the rich man. I'm the drunk rich man.
Just like the sleaziest old rich man.
Exactly. Then you have his cousin Claudio, played by Shia LaBeouf, who doesn't give a shit about anything. He just wants to terrorize New Rome.
Absolute highlight of the film.
Truly a highlight. Loved every minute of him. And then you also have Aubrey Plaza as Wow Platinum. What a fucking name.
That's her name, folks.
That's her name. She is in a relationship at the beginning with Caesar, but it falls through. So she's like, well, who can I take money from? Well, I guess I'll take it from his uncle,
Right.
John Voight. And that's when like the sleaziness comes in, and that's where it grows more in terms of greed, in terms of lust and power. And you kind of get that sense from her character. You kind of get the sense of Caesar's character learning from his mistakes, because he's not a perfect character in this film. He's trying to learn from what makes a utopia, what makes a better tomorrow, like even better than before. And he has a lot of egotism towards him in the beginning of the movie. And he learns that from various characters like Julia telling him, like, there's more to life than this.
Big time.
There's more to life than just quoting dead people and stuff like that. There's
Right.
a lot of quoting in this film from various philosophers, and a lot of people might be annoyed by that. I would get annoyed by it. But for some reason, this film connected with me because it didn't just use it and move on. It was like, okay, I'm quoting this, but also that doesn't matter unless you love someone, unless you actually care for someone,
Right.
you know? And that's the part I really enjoyed. So you kind of see Caesar's like fall and rise to fame and his infamous arc in this movie, and realizing that humanity is good. There will be a better future. We have to have hope within ourselves. And is it preachy? Yeah, I honestly, it is preachy. I don't think it's pretentious, more that it's preachy and innocent in its way of doing it. And it kind of shows all these characters going through this insane roller coaster, and we're part of it too. And once the film ends, you think to yourself, did I like going out on that roller coaster? Did I get like jet lag? Did my head hurt? I don't know, but I experienced it, and there's no way I'm ever gonna forget this type of mentality.
Yeah, it's fucking memorable. But like
That's a brief summary, by the way. I didn't go into detail because
Yeah.
there's no fucking way.
there's definitely some other side plots that go nowhere at times, and
Yeah.
and some other messages that Coppola is trying to put in this film. But that's the brief summary.
Brief.
But as far as the casting here and characters,
Yes.
how do you feel about it? What works for you and what doesn't?
You know what? I'm more positive than you about this, so I feel like the fair thing to do now is to go into the negatives for me. I'll go into the negatives because I feel like that's a fair thing, because I don't think this movie's flawless. Far from it. I feel like my issues come from the fact that this is a fable.
Yeah.
This is a fable. A lot of people don't know what that means. It's a theatrical term for short story. You're getting yourself into this world that is not like your conventional movie. It's very weird with its storytelling, and
Yeah.
a lot of these actors are going all out with it. Very much theatrical in that sense. What I would have wanted, in fact, for it to be a fable, is I wanted Lawrence Fishburne's narration to be incorporated more. I feel like he was underused in this film
Big time.
big time. And you know what they should have done is, Killers of the Flower Moon with Scorsese narrating at the
Yeah.
very end? Why couldn't Lawrence Fishburne do that and look at the camera and be like, this is the story of Caesar, ... And then after he does his narration, he walks into the scene and helps out Caesar.
Right. Because they start some of that, like the scene where you're introduced to
Julia.
To Julia. and he
Yeah.
says, I like her.
I kind of like her.
Right?
Why didn't they do more of that? Because there's another scene where he's in the car waiting for Caesar to come back for mourning his dead wife, and it looks like he's writing.
Yeah.
So what are they trying to say? Is he writing the story? Is he talking to the audience? Is he just talking by himself under his breath?
I don't know what the fuck his character.
Dude,
what the
he's
purpose
speaking
of it is.
fucking Spanish at a certain point in the narration. I don't know. There's no subtitles for that.
Yeah.
There's that point of the movie where I'm just like, what are you trying to say, Coppola?
I feel like he could have been a really cool character.
Yeah.
And they set him up in the beginning a bit, but then kind of just let him fall by the wayside.
Out of all the actors, I feel like he was the most underused.
100%.
Which I feel so bad for, because he's worked with Coppola since Apocalypse Now, since he was 15 years old.
I know.
So he
I wanted
knows
more.
he knows everything about this history. He's heard Coppola talk about this with his family when he was 16 years old, 45 years ago.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So-
and I felt like his narration really worked extremely well here.
I agree. Yeah. Another problem I have with this film is take out the title cards. Take them out.
Yeah, sure.
Take them out. Take them
I
out.
didn't love him either.
No, I don't need them. All right, this is a movie. I'm not reading. Coppola, you know this. This is the art of film. We're not going into reading territory. So I would say take out all those title cards, have Lawrence Fishburne narrate, and make it look visually interesting, because this film is visually interesting and they can be consistent with that.
Yeah.
So there's those elements. Another thing, too, I had an issue with was I feel like there could have been more breathing room at certain parts of the movie. Just a little bit, because I do agree that it is a lot to throw in, and I would have wanted them to delve into some scenes more than others.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think there's going to be a director's cut. This is literally Coppola's director's cut. I
Yeah.
doubt he's going to revision it. But at the same time, he said that about other films in the past. And then, like,
never
20
know.
years later, he makes a director's cut out of nowhere. I'm like, all right, dude, do what you can. So the future will tell us whether that happens or not. But those are my gripes.
So, okay, I got a lot of gripes.
Go for it, man.
I got a lot of gripes. So
Go
on my
for it.
rewatch, I think the first half really works, and the main reason I think the first half really works is because of the way it sets up the conflict of Caesar
Yeah.
and Mayor Cicero.
Yes.
I think that is where this story is the absolute strongest. This conflict of the new and the old.
Yes.
I think that is the story that I wanted to be fleshed out more, and that's why I like the first half less, because I feel like they push it to the side.
Sort of.
That's how I feel about it. Like you know, we get that. I love both of these characters too. I think these are the best characters in the movie. Like,
Yeah.
I also think they're the best performances. I think Adam Driver as Caesar. You know, Caesar's a tough fucking character to play.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I don't know what Coppola's direction was like. I don't know how much of this he's like ad-libbing or whatever, but I thought it worked really well. I thought Adam Driver gives it his all
Yeah.
and plays it straight.
Yeah.
It's really good. I also think that Giancarlo Esposito is a fantastic, slightly over-the-top mayor.
He's not playing, and this is an issue because of Breaking Bad, is he's been typecast in that role for so long. He's
Yeah.
been like that for The Boys. He's been like that for The Mandalorian.
That's right.
He's the bad guy, this, that. This is the first time I've ever seen him where I was just like, oh my God, this reminds me of like the 90s Giancarlo.
Right.
Like Spike
Like,
Lee
do the
Giancarlo.
right thing.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy fuck, they finally got a role for him that is refreshing, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank God, because he does have that lively power in him, and he showcases that while also being the mayor and also realizing that he himself is flawed.
I
But
love the scenes where they're like talking about each other or interacting with each other. That's when I feel like the theatrical element of this film really works.
yes,
Like you're watching this play unfold on screen, and it's like that's when it really works.
what did you think of the fact that the name Francis? What did you think of that? The fact that the mayor is also named Francis, and they wanted the child is like, oh, if it's a girl, it'll be Sonny. If it's a boy, it'll be Francis. Type
Yeah.
of thing. What did you think of that?
I didn't think much of it. Like, you thought there was like a deeper meaning to that?
The only meaning I was thinking of is two things. One is Coppola's applying himself as being, yep, I'm old too, and I've acted like Mayor Cicero at times.
Right.
And also, more so he applies his life to Caesar. So it's like I've been like Caesar too, man. Like I've been both of those versions. And the cool thing about it is, the name is just a name.
Yeah.
There are so many Nathans in life. There are so many Matthews in life.
Right.
Hence why Francis Ford Coppola is just like, there's going to be a bunch of other Francises that are going to come into life that are going to be here after I die. The real question is, what do we do to make it better for them? Because we want to have a better future for them. It's like, these kids are smarter than me. These people know more. Like even Coppola said, he's like, these people know how to use After Effects and stuff. It's like, I don't know how to do that shit.
Right.
I don't know how to do any of that. It's great that he's commenting not only on the old ways and applying it to himself, but the new ways, applying it to the newer generation. That's what I kind of got out of him using the mayor as
could see that.
Francis, and then naming the child, if he was a boy, Francis. as
I
well.
like that.
Yeah. That's why I like the relationship.
But yeah, so Adam Driver, Caesar and Mayor Cicero is like the highlight of this film. I like their conflict, really good. Shia LaBeouf, obviously, a fantastic side character as Claudio. Extremely memorable.
Yeah.
Like some of his deliveries here are just you can never forget.
Julia, I fucking love you, Julia. Fucking spies on her.
It's so good.
He's spying on Julia. Julia's spying on Caesar. I fucking love this movie, man. I can't. It's like the way it handles scenes is so much more different than I would have expected a regular director to do. But
I think that Coppola cannot write female characters to save his life. I think that the female characters in this movie are terribly written. and
Really?
the direction is really bad. I think Julia is like let's talk about the scene because I think it's one of the most memorable scenes in the film when Julia comes to visit Adam Driver in his office.
Infamous scene. Yeah.
There's things I love about it,
Yeah.
and there's things I hate about it. I think Julia is giving a terrible fucking performance in that scene.
I can't.
I think her deliveries are so bad, like laughably bad. And I don't know if it's the direction. I'm not trying to say like Natalie Emmanuel is a bad actress. I've seen her in stuff that I think she's good in.
Right.
I just think that I think that Coppola also cannot write female characters. I don't know what the message of these female characters really were. Like, I feel like Coppola's female characters are made to like love men.
Yeah, I do understand that point. I feel like out of all of them, I think Julia is the most innocent one. I feel like she's kind of the reason why Caesar doesn't like die or doesn't like fall from his grace. There is this sense of like bias, obviously, coming from Coppola, where it's just like he's putting a lot of his life into this, and the fact that his late wife passed away, it's kind of like you kind of sense that this movie incorporates that with Caesar having his dead wife heal him, literally. So she's part of him, type of thing. There's a lot of interesting aspects of that where he learns from it and he realizes that these characters mean something, and like he's kind of losing that himself. Is the writing like amazing on them? Like I'm not gonna throw a fucking feminist lens at Megalopolis, dude. I don't know. Like I just thought Julia was an interesting character.
No, and I'm not even trying to fucking, say that like go like the feminist route or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say that they're bad.
They're bad.
They're
Okay.
just not written well at all.
Not really well. I think
Like very one-dimensional.
I can't. No, the reason why I looked at it that way was with Julia, her innocence, while also realizing that, she's like, I learned this and that, but I fucking party. I don't give a shit. She's like, I just want to see like what you're capable of because of that moment, which I love, where they first meet eye to eye, and it's shot in that like iris lens where it's like the circle,
Yeah.
and she's like, he stops time, and then it cuts to him like stopping time at the beginning of the film and stuff.
She wasn't all that impressed. Yo, imagine you see somebody stop time,
yes.
and then you go see the guy, and she was about to walk out of that scene without even mentioning it.
Yep.
Like she didn't seem all that impressed.
Well, because he was insulting her.
Right.
He was mocking her.
But okay, with the stopping time,
Yes.
the first time I'm like, why is this in the movie? It does not affect the course of the plot at all.
Mm-hmm.
He basically does it because he wants to see a building fall slow.
Yeah.
And just wants to, like, for his amusement, it feels like he's stopping time.
Right.
Never for the story.
No, yeah.
Right? And the first time I didn't really get it. And then the second time I'm like, okay, it's this definitely a metaphor for art. And great art has the ability to stop time. And
Yeah.
great artists have the ability to stop time because their work is timeless.
Yeah. I would say it's even a little bit more vague than that. It's a moment. You're capturing the moment. I liked what Lawrence Fishburne said at the Cannes interview. If you haven't seen it already, I highly recommend watching it. It's one of the most like interesting outlooks of like a movie that you haven't seen yet, and you're just like, what is this movie about? And then you watch the movie and you're like, oh fuck, yeah, those answers kind of make sense now, because you never really understood it. What Lawrence Fishburne said, he's like talking about time in this film. He's like, I remember being on set of Apocalypse Now, and Francis would tell his wife, being like, Ellen, I can stop time. And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, I can stop time and stuff. And there would be a moment where it's just like he shoots a movie and like, kisses her and stuff like that. And he's like, I just did it. And,
Interesting.
And Lawrence Fishburne is just like, I never understood what that meant until I saw this film. And he's like, I got emotional when I saw that, because it's realized like, oh my God, like I saw this 45 years ago without even
Right.
realizing it. The stopping of time is a metaphor for taking in moments in life and always remembering them in your life.
Interesting. Okay, that's not how I read it. I read it as more of like a reflection of like, art, how art has the ability to be timeless and stop time. And that's why I feel like, in the story, there's that time after he gets super drunk after the Coliseum.
Yeah.
And he's down bad, and then he gets accused of rape, and that goes away
Yeah.
goes away in 2 seconds. But anyway.
That whole scene, though, I like the concept of like the pop star and stuff like that. You can see right through me and stuff. I don't
Right.
know. I like that. I know a lot of people hated that scene and how her transition into being like the bad girl and stuff like that. I'm like, we've seen that happen so many times, and I'm like, I like the fact that it's so bombastic. But yeah,
Yeah, I didn't think that worked.
no.
and I didn't think that worked, and then the rape thing was like kind of ridiculous. But anyway, when he's
Yes.
down bad at his lowest point, I feel like, and then he says, like he talks to Julia, and he's like, I can't stop time anymore.
Yeah.
I felt like that was like he was at the point of like giving up on his art
Yeah.
and giving up on this future.
Right.
And that's why he was like he lost that ability. And then through Julia, I think he found that motivation again, and he found that passion
Yeah.
in him to continue, and that's why he was able to start time again. And that's why I thought it was like a reflection of art.
Yeah.
But I see what
I
you're
do
saying as
agree
well.
with you though.
Yeah.
Because art, you do take those moments in when
And
you're
Julia says a line about art and how it has the ability to like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And art is a moment though. When we watch movies,
Right.
we never have the exact same experience as the person next to us.
That's
We're
true.
always going to take in our moment and how we viewed the film. Even if we both love the film or both hate the film, we have completely different interpretations and viewpoints of said film because of our different experiences in the past. That's kind of what the whole stopping time was like, in my opinion. And there's a lot of elements like that in this film where it's very metaphorical and very unconventional that I love. I love the sequence with like Caesar getting drunk and high at the Colosseum circus. My favorite line, when we leap into the unknown, we prove that we are free.
Fantastic.
Coppola is essentially saying, I'm going to show everything that I think would work and see what you think. But at the end of the day, I'm finally free.
Yeah.
I'm not locked in. I'm not trapped or anything like that.
There is some cool metaphors like that I think really work. Even like small ones like pick up my hat.
Yes!
Pick up my hat. Pick up my hat. I think like as silly as it is, if you take it as at face value, I think that was like a message of like, like the hierarchy of like power.
Absolutely.
About how it's just like down everybody wants to like feel important and boss around the next guy under them.
It makes complete sense that Claudio and Wild Platinum, as weird as it is, are the antagonists of this film because they both use power to corrupt.
Exactly.
And also use the concept of love in an evil way. They're using it to manipulate people. They're using it to control people. They're using it because they're disgusting, hence why their downfall is one of the funniest downfalls of all time, because how do you take down evil? You make fun of it. You
Yeah,
make
I don't
fun
know.
of it,
It
man.
didn't work as
John
much.
Voight. We gotta talk about John Voight now, because what Kraus the third?
Yeah,
Fucking, he's 90% drunk in this film. I don't know if that was method or not. I don't give a shit. It was so fucking funny.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, look at that. And
I think some of his best lines are in the Colosseum. Like
I knew that scene with the woman singing or whatever, that pop song. It could have been it could have been Sabrina Carpenter for all I care about.
Sure.
Because imagine that music playing, and then it cuts to these old people being like horny and they're, oh, and I'm like, oh, that's funny. But then it gets even, to me, I was disturbed when it was like, oh, let's bid for the virgin and stuff. And then it cuts
sure.
to kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, ugh, like now I'm like feeling this uneasiness because you kind of take in the fact that this society is just so nonchalant about this concept. Not to mention Claudio's like footage of, Caesar and her and stuff like that. And you realize all these kids are there and it's like, it's all just an event.
Yeah.
It's all just an event to like go insane, go surprising and stuff. And to me, I got a lot out of that scene, and it kind of incorporates the whole
I
theme.
did too, but then it's like after like the rape thing, it's like, oh, they find Julia finds the file, and she's
Yeah.
really 22, and
Yeah.
and let's throw away this side plot and on to the next one, and that's why I think after the Colosseum, it falls apart for me a bit, and also like, shortly after that, we get we find out Julia's pregnant.
Yeah.
And we get the scene with Mayor Cicero visiting Caesar
Yeah.
in his office in the Chrysler Building.
Oh my God. Those are amazing scenes and stuff like that. But I want to tell you my favorite scene in this movie.
Tell me.
The one that choked me up twice. It's the part where the satellite finally goes down on New Rome and destroys everything.
I mean, doesn't destroy
It destroys a good amount of things.
To me, it was like they were gassing up the threat, and then it was like, I don't know.
To me, the scene with Caesar creating and that soundtrack and the drawings and the sequence and all that montage and stuff. I loved it
The
so
one where he's
much.
like putting people together in like unusual shapes and
Yeah, like his map, the map of
yeah.
Megalopolis and stuff, and the music hits and that beautiful flute in the background. I'm like, oh my god, why am I getting emotional for this? I fucking laughed at like Shia LaBeouf for like 5 minutes, and I'm getting emotional for this. Why am I feeling these things? I'm feeling it for that scene. I'm feeling it for the montage sequence when he gets shot, and it's essentially purgatory for him. That whole sequence of purgatory when you see like his mother and stuff like that, and that. Oh my god, I was like, I love movies. Like those sequences, I'm like, I want to make movies until I die.
no doubt there's fantastic sequences in this. Like, look, Francis Ford Coppola is still one of the best directors ever. Like, he knows how to make a film. He knows how to like these. Some of those sequences are so. He knows how to make a sequence memorable.
Yeah, man.
Right? He really
Holy
does.
shit.
And a lot of it doesn't work for me, but there are those scenes that I'm like, yeah, this is art at the highest level. This is filmmaking at the highest level. There certainly is that in this.
Yeah.
And I think like it's kind of become a meme to shit on Megalopolis.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like it's not.
I don't
very-
think all the shots work.
No, it's not very like to a casual viewing audience. I think I get it. You won't subscribe to the story or what's really going on here, but there is some beautiful filmmaking in this, as well as some ugly filmmaking.
Yeah.
There's like real duality of this movie.
It's so vulnerable in itself. And you know what it reminds me of? Like all the ugly effects and stuff like that. It reminds me of like Mayor Cicero and his wife. She's like, oh, just come over here, Frank. Like, just take a chance. And he's like so reluctant. He's like shaking his fucking hand. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like Coppola with CGI. Like
Yeah.
that whole sequence, like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do this. It's like Coppola, you're 85, man. Fuck it, man. Just do it.
Okay,
It's not gonna look amazing, but just go for it.
Christian, I don't know how we talked about this for 40 minutes already. That's the thing about this movie.
Is
It's
it been
like-
40 minutes?
It's like
I
that's
could
the-
talk about this for 3 fucking hours,
That's
man.
the thing about this movie. Like, I didn't like it, but I could talk about it for another hour. You know?
I could write an essay on every character of this film. We haven't even talked about little sequences because of how insane they are. And that's the thing. For anyone that hasn't seen the movie and is just like, are you guys just making up a movie right now every time you talk about sequence? No. This is in the fucking movie, and
Yeah.
we're not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Like, these lines exist in this movie. These scenes exist in this movie.
check out my boner. You know.
Look at my boner. And then he fucking kills Aubrey Plaza and then shoots Shia LaBeouf in the ass not once but twice.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Cinema.
And quickly, we'll do the ending. Talk
Yeah.
about the ending and then our ratings.
Yeah.
I don't fucking get this ending at all. I mean, Caesar gives that huge speech, and I think it's a good scene.
Yeah.
But then they cut to the mayor, and he's like, "Oh, look, he's incriminating."
Oh, he's got a
himself."
soldier hat on? Yeah.
The mayor has a soldier hat on, and then they're like, "Oh, look, Caesar's incriminating himself." And then they cut back to the speech. He's giving a really powerful speech. I don't understand how he's incriminating himself. And then immediately after that, the doors are open. Welcome to Megalopolis. Hop on the fucking escalator.
Yep.
And that's it. And then it's like the end of Phantom Menace, where they're on the stage and everyone's fucking clapping.
Yep.
And I'm like, this did not feel earned. I understand the message of this hopeful, optimistic future, but it did not feel earned to me.
Nathan, this is my Phantom Menace. This is literally my Phantom Menace. Like when I saw it, I was like, I think I understand the prequels if it was this. But the ending, I'm gonna say one thing about the ending. When it's the last shot and it like zooms in on the baby, I want you to think about the last shot of Godfather Part 3. Hell, even the last shot of Godfather Part 2 with Michael Corleone all by himself.
Sitting in the chair,
Sitting in
yeah.
the chair. He lost his family. He lost everything. And he's just staring into nothingness. In Part 3, he dies.
You're saying it's the complete opposite.
The exact opposite. It's a full family and a child
Yeah.
giving hope.
Yeah, I see that.
That's all it is. Literally speaking, makes zero fucking sense. Why did Mayor Cicero go from wearing a soldier hat to coming out of somewhere with his wife? It's literally like being high watching something when you're sober.
Yeah,
I get
it
that.
makes no sense to me. But overall, yeah, man, there's so much more we could even talk about with this film. But overall, Megalopolis for me has some really cool ideas in theory. Didn't really work in execution. I give this film 2.5 stars. That's up from my 2-star rating in my first viewing. So I did bump it up a half star.
That's good. I mean, again, it could be lower the next time you see it. Who knows? For me, I'm going to give it a consistent 4 out of 5 stars, 8 out of 10. It was one of my favorite films of the year. Coppola, you swung, and to me, you hit it. It's not my favorite film of the year, but I can't not love it. Something about this movie makes me want to make movies, makes me want to keep doing it, and makes it inspirational for me.
Very grateful that we got to see a Francis Ford Coppola film in theaters in 2024. Like that's my takeaway. I'm glad it exists, and it's definitely an event that I won't forget.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe to your boys. It means a lot to us. Let us know what you thought about Megalopolis in the comments, and we will catch you in the next one. Take care. Brush your hair.
Peace.
Joker 2 next week.
Oh, yeah.